Here in Huntington, Lincoln Caverns.
Folks in this area had no idea there was a cave here. But during the construction of Route 22, which brought you to us, they were removing part of the mountainside to make room for it. And at one point, a steam shovel actually collapsed down into the earth, and that was right into the cave. So by 1931, plans were to create this as a show cave, and the original doorway is alongside the road. We will show you from the inside of the tour where it is, and then you can drive by and look at it later. So let's go on in. Just be aware of low ceilings. Here are the first light. This is the man-made entrance, blasted through about 17 feet of solid rock.
Wow.
Try not to touch the walls, please.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. This room was discovered in 1937. Back at that year, Myron Dunleavy Sr. had bought Lincoln Caverns and the land above it, and he decided to dig in some of the areas that were still filled with clay, just to see if the cave was any larger. So in 1937, he was the first person who discovered this section. There was a place right here where the steps are now that was filled with the clay, basically sealing it off from the rest of the cave. When he entered, he looked around and explored all extra rooms, and here doesn't go much farther than what you can see. But he did notice there were bats in this section. Bats, we know, use caves for hibernation in the winter, but generally aren't here in the summer months. So Myron was naturally curious how they were able to get in and out of caves. We always show you up above in the ceilings. Later on the tour, I'll be able to show you some bats more close up.
Okay.
Here in this room, you can see at this depth, we can see lots of tree roots that do enter walls and cracks of the rocks all around us. And we always like to talk about how this cave was formed, and also the Whisper Rocks Cave. They're considered to be solution caves, so water has formed them. It was a long time ago. The first thing that was formed, though, was the rock, which surrounds us. Let's take a look here on the wall. You can see layering within the limestone rock. This rock was the sedimentation layers underneath the oceans a long time ago. Here in some of the areas of the rocks, you can see bright white veins of minerals. This is calcium carbonate, which was basically formed from shells and bones of ancient animals. This is the mineral that is dissolved as water comes through the rock and carried along, and then makes the formations in the caves. So top of this stalagmite, we decided that looked like a Chinese pagoda.
It does.
I can also see other things in it too, like maybe a chocolate fountain. So,
I like that one too.
I like that
Yeah.
it's always fun to look at formations and just pick out different things. Both of these stalagmites that you see here on the other side of the handrail are very, very large, but that doesn't always tell us how old they could be. Some of these formations, due to periods of dormancy, can grow 1 inch maybe every 100 years. So it takes a very long time for them to be formed. And it all depends on how much water is dripping on them. Other formations can form every year about 2 to 3 inches long. So it is very important, though, that we aren't touching them because of the oils in our hands. That does stop their growth.
That's huge.
We are going to head into the largest room of the cave, but due to the transformation, it might be a little dark in here.
Okay.
Hello! If you can take a look with my flashlight, it might help. You can see there's a large man-made wall here at the end of the cave.
Oh, yes.
This is the opening at which was basically blasted and dug through back in the 30s. Imagine a steam shovel digging away the mountain, which extended over that direction, and then all of a sudden the steam shovel collapsing down into the earth.
Wow, scary.
What a scary surprise. But after everyone was found to be okay, they informed the owner of the land, who was Harry Stewart. Harry Stewart came down and was the first person to tour the cave with a little bit of candlelight and some safes that was placed here in the cave, so he'd keep the cash hidden at night rather than in the gift shop, since it was right along the highway.
That's a clever idea.
Who would have thought to steal the money out of the cave?
Right.
Over here, folks, Well, now that the lights are off, you see here. But the dark center does represent iron or even clay that mixes in during the drops of water coming through the soil and rock. Most of the 95% calcite mineral, so it has that natural bright white look. So calcite forest.
Ooh.
Oh, isn't that gorgeous?
So underneath the black whites, this calcite will fluoresce, which means to glow. Other minerals have this ability as kind of like this area here on the wall, charge up a little bit. What I'd like to do now is turn off the lights, and you should be able to catch a glimpse of it glowing and become so tight you can't go any farther. So sometimes during heavy periods of rain, this area will flood. We've had water all the way back to the steps. We just walked down. That was. Unfortunately, doesn't lead us to anywhere else. We dug it out back in 2005. This is a nice crawl space.
Mm-hmm.
We send the caving camp kids in there. More like a whispering sound. Once we're in here, we'll see many more bats than usual, I guess, for late summer. But I think they're anticipating maybe a tough winter. I don't know.
Could be.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're found in your garage or your house, and they're called camel crickets. But these are also flowstone. This flowstone is from the ceiling all the way down into this room, into the next room, and even the third. It's a very large flowstone formation. So you'll notice, hopefully pretty soon, that this cave is pretty different than the first one. The ceilings are a lot taller, and you can actually see that this is more of a streamlined cave system rather than deep and vertical, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
On the walls, you'll notice there are other formations which we haven't talked about earlier. This is called cave coral. It is a neat mineral that comes out of the limestone, but it is not calcite mineral. This area of the cave, which is the newer section found back in 2005. This front area was filled with the sticky, thick clay, and after, for so many years, nobody bothered to check it out. So a grotto, which is a group of cavers, came in and every evening would dig in here after hours and would carry the clay out. So it's a hard job to do, but sometimes well worth it. So that section goes back about 75 feet, but because ceilings are about 4 feet high or less, it's not going to be open for walkable tours. His wings and his feet, it was really neat. So we've spotted other bats, especially the Indiana bat, which is an endangered species in Pennsylvania right now. But scarily enough, the white-nose syndrome is probably going to make the endangered species list for Pennsylvania go up to be about 6 types of bats. So out of the 9 that we do have here regularly. That's very, very scary. Here in this, these were formed as water carved out the rocks. Unfortunately, these lines of high and low water marks doesn't tell us how old the cave is or when the water left. Including the one on the left side here called the popcorn.
Yeah.
Yeah, that does look.
Yes, it does.
And you'll notice it is a lot different than the beads we saw earlier,
Right.
so it cannot really be the same. Underneath the smoothness are the popcorn pieces. This area was formed as water has dripped from the stalagmite and splashed minerals over. This is my favorite area of Whisper Rocks. With my light shining on it, you'll see how all the crystals catch the light.
Yeah, it sparkles. I'm glad I brought my jacket along. Now that we've left Sarah and the caves behind, we're going to take a look at the sinkhole up here at the top of the hill, right above the cavern that we were just in, Whispering Rocks. And that is a deep sinkhole.